that is doing and pulling out all the stops and willing to take any risk and sacrifice anything is that if you want to beat that person, you either have to innovate in a way that they haven't thought of in order to make up the difference, or you have to meet them where they're at. And so I think that really, I mean, we're trying to do both, very obviously. But yeah, and if you don't do that, then you're going to lose even more than if you sacrifice the things in order to win. And I think that's very clearly, like, that's the logic. I even agree with the logic.
Our shareholders,
but there's ways you can do it that are better, right? It's not everything in the world is binary.
Can just have whatever's left. Of course, we need to make a profit to survive and grow, but that should just come naturally as a byproduct of focusing on these three tenets. Compared to modern corporate standards, this is
one of the things that, like, people don't understand with making videos too, is that you shouldn't try to make money with your videos necessarily. You should just try to make very good videos, and then if you make very good videos, you'll make money. Like, I really mean this. I haven't checked the amount of money that, like, I make on most platforms in like a year. I don't even know how much money I make, because I think that thinking about it is like a brain poison. I don't ever like thinking about money. It's because then it's the quality, right? It's what I do, and it's the focus. That's why I stream every day. That's my main focus.
Such a foreign concept that it almost sounds like it's coming from a fictional universe. But this actually happened. This was just America 70 years ago. Now, during this time, what do you think the tax rate was on the wealthiest American? For reference, in 2025, the highest income tax
like
bracket is supposed to be around 24%. But because of how many ways there are to circumvent the rules, it often ends up being as little as 3%. For someone like Elon Musk, who doesn't take a salary...
Well, the reason why it's so low also is that the majority of the wealth increments that they gain is through capital gains and stock gains. It's not really like they have a big pile of like billions of dollars in their house. Like, they don't have a bank account with $1 billion in it. Like, it's abstracted through stocks and other types of asset investments.
Tesla, and instead just own.
That's the reason why.
Stock. As long as he doesn't sell any of that stock, then technically there's no income or tax.
That's right.
It's still not taxable.
Of course not.
This is how people like him and Jeff Bezos can be, in terms of net worth, two of the richest people on the planet, and in some years, $1 billion.
I really got you to say 70%,
3%, or 20%, or even 50%. It was between 70 and 94%. It honestly
is insane, crazy high, like tax rate. Yeah, exactly. It's just crazy. It was. And this is what's so nice to me about this is that, like, all the people that advocate for this kind of stuff and, like, the higher taxes, like, you know, like, and I think it really puts it into perspective, like, with Brent and Dami, like, oh, yeah, we're going to increase it by, like, 2% or 5% or something like this. This is nothing. It's really nothing.
It sounds crazy, but even a lot of the people being taxed understood that it was necessary for society to support. Having a strong middle class was a crucial investment into the future of the country.
Because if you have the middle class, then you can have people that are buying your stuff regularly. It's like the idea of having the golden goose and then regularly collecting eggs instead of killing the goose.
I don't know, man. I just think it's kind of interesting that during what's referred to as the golden age of capitalism, the government did a bunch of things. During the period of time that birth.
In order to have proper capitalism, you need to have regulations and forms of socialism. It's like a yin-yang, right? Like, you can't have it all one way or all another way. You can't have all capitalism, you can't have all socialism. Both of these extremes will lead to, like, a fucking, like, a dystopia.
The idea of the American dream, the government was taxing the absolute shit out of the richest Americans, using that money to provide jobs and welfare programs for everybody else. A single income household working a regular ass job could afford to start a family, buy a house.
Remember this? Yeah, me too.
Send their kids to college and retire.
Yeah, I don't know.
No wonder people who grew up in
No? Yeah, same.
But at this point, it is disingenuous to use that time period as the example for why capitalism works.
Because I think that he's right about this, and I think that using this time period and then not contextualizing it around the way that, you know, wealth was regulated is like, It's like saying that you lost weight, but not mentioning that you lost weight by cutting off your arm. It's just, it's totally dishonest.
Version of it stopped existing.
Completely dishonest.
The generation of people who started as beneficiaries of a more equitable system changed the rules once the roles were reversed and they had the power. So what the hell?
This will always happen, by the way. It will always happen, and it will never be different. Because the greed that people like Elon Musk are accused of having is the same greed that poor people like latent virtue in the working class and poor people, that if they were given these opportunities that they wouldn't do the same thing, is completely naive. They would go and do the exact same stuff. And some of them would probably be even worse.
And this had long-term ramifications. America had been diverting so much money away from manufacturing and towards defense that it opened the door for other growing industrialized countries to more and more produce. This led to factories getting shut down, unemployment starting to creep back up.
I still think that it's crazy that they managed to build their entire country that have looked like day.
后援，还未放弃。
We say, fuck the government. We don't owe you shit.
That's
We're
right.
Stupid, isn't that right? I don't even know my
Yep.
own name. Exactly. The
All right.
We don't do it.
Sounds good.
鬼方，
There is trickle-down economics. It's when they piss on you. And also, there's another form of trickle-down economics where, you know, one guy makes $1 million and then he pays, this is the trickle-down economics effect. He pays people,
鬼方，还未燃。地护盘，此为方人之法。
But it's only been 55 years.
well, you can never expect anybody to act in good faith. You can never do that because ultimately, you create the system. You will always have systems. So you have to have systems of regulation and accountability. Because even if you think that you're going to do it the right way, the fourth guy after you won't. And also, like, another, like, parallel to this is, like, the idea that wealth will only last for 3 generations. That it doesn't matter how wealthy a person is, that, you know, 2 or 3 generations later on down the line, that, you know, they're going to lose all of that money. And I think that you can really apply like, a lot of regulation in general. And just human psychology, how people behave.
So, the jury's still out. See, I would argue that part of the reason why companies in the 40s and 50s were so generous with their extra profits was because the tax rate was so high. I mean, think about it. If you're faced with the decision between giving a huge chunk of money to the government or redistributing it back to the employees who helped you earn it in the first place, you would be much more likely to do the latter because it's an investment in your own company. It's a mutually beneficial exchange. Well-compensated workers are proven to be more loyal and more productive, and this is the way I felt it on.
Whenever I was on like different multipliers, I was getting paid. This is back in like 2013.
冬季大炮在外头。
Especially for me, like, 'cause I didn't really have like any other like great jobs.
春分秋分，地在中横，天下在地。
And so, like, for me, I thought to myself, like, I'm gonna show up early every day to this job. I'm gonna do my work as well as I possibly can be because I'm getting paid all this fucking money, and you know, I don't want to get fired, right? I don't want to get kicked out or anything like that. I think that's the way a lot of people do, right? It's like if you give people more money, a lot of them will perform better. Now, obviously, this is not a guarantee, but there's clearly a trend here. There is a trend. It's an incentive, yes.
Two things that you want. Now, there were other factors as well, loosening a lot of anti-monopoly regulations.
That's the big one. That's the really big one, is the anti-monopoly regulations. Look at phones right now. If you want to get an app to market on a smartphone with any sort of phone, you have to either go through Google or Apple. They have a complete duopoly on all types of fucking apps. It is complete bullshit. They behave the same. They have the same rules, and they have the same regulations. They should be completely regulated. Totally regulated, and the fact that they aren't is a disgrace. Meanwhile, they're trying to micromanage Microsoft buying Blizzard. Suck my fucking dick. Are you kidding me?
This dramatically lower tax rate is a big reason why the 80s serves as the dividing line on just about every economic graph you could look at. This was the beginning of a long-term, continuous transfer of wealth from the working class to the top 1%.
That's right.
While it would be very easy to just blame all of this on then President Reagan, that would only be...
Reagan also did that amnesty bullshit. I thought Reagan, like, there's a way I like Reagan, but he fucked up.
这位少侠瞅着眼熟。
I think conservatives look at him with way too much rose-tinted glasses. I think he's things that he has done have set us up for problems like 30 and 40 years down the road.
Sure, this new approach opened
The actor? Yeah. The actor.
printed US modern CEOs are still following to this day. His name was Jack Welch.
Bald.
He's often referred to as the man who broke capitalism. During his tenure as CEO of General Electric, he turned the once quintessential American company that reshaped people's lives and supplied hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs all across the country into a worthless carcass and a joke of a corporation, all while he became one of the richest people on the planet. In the century before Jack Welch took the reins, GE invented things like X-ray machines, jet engines, TVs, about any kitchen appliance you can think of.
Pretty good.
In the 80s, Jack invented laying people off.
Well, hey, I mean, at least everybody uses that invention a lot now, right? So you can't say it didn't get popular. It really caught on.
That was his big idea.
He's a visionary, yeah.
And then we don't have to spend as much money. It seems so simple and obviously very commonplace today, but before Jack, companies were not doing it. It was almost seen as un-American to fire somebody unless they absolutely...
This is even something it's always hard for me to be certain about this because there's so much, like, fucking... But there are people that say that in Japan, there are guys that are like 45, 50, 55 that aren't really quite at retirement age, but the company doesn't have the heart to fire them. And so, like, out of a matter of respect, these guys just show up to work and don't fucking do anything all day until they hit retirement age. And like, yeah, exactly, yeah, real Miltons, exactly, yeah. And yeah, salaryman? No, that's just the term that's used. There is a term for it, but it's not that term. That's just somebody who works that way.
The greatly instituted rank and yank system where every year the bottom 10% of employees get laid off no matter what. Not because they all
a job or a profession, people stop doing the job and they start playing the game. This is one of the reasons also there's a second order effect of this that's happening in the federal government. So, for example, everybody who is rated for performance, or at least they used to be, on a 1 to 5 scale. 3 is good, 2 is retarded, 1 is fuck you, 4 is 5 is you're gonna do. That's basically what you want to get a 3. The 3 is what you want. And so in order to evaluate fraud claims and any sort of inaccuracies or problematic, any sort of like problematic data inside of a form, a document, a submission, usually the way that the systems and the algorithms are set up, it's not actually calculated into your performance. So the performance assumes that you're not going to have any of these, like 1% situations. But everybody knows if you're processing 1,000 documents a day, you're on average going to have 10 of these every single day. But because it's not amortized into the unit value of the amount of things that you're going over every day, what ends up happening is that people are then trained to skip and to do bad work because they're trying to meet the quotas for their job rather than trying to do their job. That's the main problem and the big issue that a lot of these like systematic process analyses or analyzed like systems work. And so so now you guys see that happen. And so there's the incentive for it. Now can you see why there's so many, like, let's say people in Minnesota, many of them are Somalian, but this happens everywhere, that are scamming the government? The reason why they're scamming the government is, well, maybe they're pieces of shit, maybe they're retards, sure, but another reason why it goes through is because the government has a system that encourages the employees to allow scams to go through. And once you see and you take a step back and you look at how all these pieces fit together, you will see that we have engineered the most bad faith version of an economic system that we could possibly have. And I think that really that's the term that I want to use the most, is it's bad faith economics. And that's what happens.
Retirement and now you no longer qualify for pension?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then die. And to be clear, the layoffs were also
right.
not because the company wasn't profitable. It very much was, but it just wasn't profitable enough. See, when you routinely shut down entire facilities, you uproot thousands of lives, you create a toxic and selfish work environment where loyalty is replaced with fear. And if you're a company with the size and influence that GE had at the time, you can almost single-handedly destroy any semblance of a middle class across all of America. But this number gets a little bit bigger.
That's right.
So it's kind of a fair trade. GE was at
I mean, and this is also, it's inevitable that this was going to happen because of fiduciary responsibility through each company. This was inevitable.
Forefront of this countrywide philosophical transition from an economy that cared about making things and rewarding the labor it took to do so to an economy that only cared about shareholder value and would prioritize anything it could to make that number go up. But the thing about the stock market is it's mostly just about perception. As long as something seems to be growing in value, then people will be more...
The best example of this, if you ever think that the stock market isn't vibes, I think that obviously there's more to it than vibes. But the best way that I can show you that the stock market is vibes-based is the stock price changes after Elon Musk and Donald Trump won the presidency. Like, Tesla's stock prices went up by like 30% or something like that because, he was very instrumental in Trump winning the presidency, even though it never manifested in any sort of increase in the value of the company. So the company gains 30 so percent value based off of a projection, perception, or some sort of promise or hope. That's it.
More likely to invest in it, which will in turn cause it to be more valuable, even if it shouldn't. A lot of what Jack did during his time as CEO did not make the company better, but it did make it bigger. And in the eyes of Wall Street...
And guys, who knows a lot about accounting? The amount of bullshittery, especially whenever you're dealing with like so many different industries and enterprises, the way that you have the interplay, holy fuck. Like, it's so, again, bad faith economics. I'm an accountant, yeah.
That was all.
GAAP accounting is hilarious. Yes. Genuinely accepted accounting principles. AKA legal exports.
I mean, come on, a business that relies on something boring like selling products can only grow so much. But a company that's constantly acquiring other companies simply has no ceiling. I mean, they could be worth infinity dollars when you think about it.
That's right.
All the dollars. GE bought and sold hundreds of companies, and Jack was lauded for his brilliance because from the outside, everything seemed to be working. I mean, sure, they were becoming a bloated, nonsensical hodgepodge of unrelated businesses, eroding the company's
此为方圆之法，东入岛，地不传。
Inside of the development of completely in-house.
北方而为人。 Almost every single like extremely wealthy person, except for people that are capitalizing on new technology, vertical integration is at the forefront of their business model.
As in constant quarterly gains over any long-term sustainability, but no one gives a shit because the stock.
By the way, this is the reason why whenever we had OTK, I thought it would be a good idea to do StarCraft, because then you could use the people that are streaming in order to promote the fucking computers, right? And then you could also have Mythic that could get more people to promote the computers as well. It's vertical integration. That's I mean, it's pretty fucking simple, right? It's, oh wow, look at the thing. The thing that everybody else did. Let's just do the thing that everybody else does. Oh wow, it worked. Holy shit, I can't believe it.
They stumbled upon an infinite money glitch. They're just alchemizing value out of thin air.
Alchemizing is that a word?
A company founded by Thomas Edison doesn't even make their own light bulb.
Well, Thomas Edison didn't invent his own light bulb, if some of the, you know, accusations are true. So maybe it's just more a return to form.
Pretty good somewhere else. Who cares? All they care about now is their ballooning financial events. They're issuing high-interest loans. They become a massive holder of subprime mortgages, a famously good investment to make in the early 2000s. Literally, whatever it took to juice the numbers, that's what they would do. After about 30 years of short-term decisions that received instant gratification from shareholders but were gradually making things worse for the company and its dwindling number of employees, GE had become severely overvalued. And it wasn't until right after Jack retired with his $400 million severance package.
The thing that's crazy about this is, like, y'all saw the pictures of this guy, right? Like, these are pictures that were taken in, like, 1985. You can tell just by the lighting. This is, like, fucking... Like, this guy makes Bobby Kotick look like a broke bitch. Like, think about how much money that is nowadays.
Where his successors stepped in and were like,
wait, this doesn't make any sense.
The time bomb Jack planted explodes in their faces, and GE spends the next 20 years slowly bleeding out. And at this point, they couldn't fall back on just like selling microwaves because they'd been cutting corners on production so long that nobody wanted to buy any of their shitty garbage anymore. And of course, they had fallen way too far behind on innovation because they'd spent all their money on acquisitions instead of research. By 2021, the company that helped bring electricity to America was merciful.
A lot of very big conglomerates Roman Empire themselves, where they spread themselves too thin, and then their competency is displaced among too many different products, and all of the products fail. It's very common, actually.
Laid to rest, split into 3 separate institutions, none of which have come close to the dominance or influence
0.25 billion?
Once
Damn.
But here's the thing. You know who isn't affected at all by the cataclysmic downfall of General Electric?
1%ers.
Jack Welch. Because he's dead.
Oh.
He already got to live his entire life of luxury and adoration without ever having to...
And here's the... No, here's another component. Imagine if he only got $40 million. He would still be living a life of absolute luxury and entertainment. The entire idea that, like, at a certain point, money, the number becomes cosmetic. It doesn't even matter at this point. It's kind of like whenever you're playing a video game, if you're already hitting a damage cap, like let's say you're, you're fighting monsters that have 100 health, it doesn't really matter to you if you go from 100 damage to 200 damage, does it? Doesn't make a difference because you're going to kill them in one hit anyway. And this is the thing that a lot of these people don't understand is that you're going to hit a cap and there's like massive fucking DRs here. Yeah, Expedition 33. Yeah, exactly. You're hitting 9999s like fucking in the first act sometimes if you're using roulette, right? And so you don't even need to worry about like, okay, at that point, are you going to keep using your big hits, or are you going to instead use something that does smaller hits over time, right? And I think that's really what these companies do, right? Is that they never think about that. They never focus on that. And they just kind of accumulate more and more money that does basically nothing. It doesn't improve your life at all.
Deal with the fallout caused by his
That's a lot.
action. He took control of a building with a rock-solid foundation and just kept scrapping it for parts until the only thing left for it to do was collapse under its own weight. But by that point, he was long gone. I believe that this is the goal of those who now follow in his footsteps. They don't need to care about whether or not what they're doing is harmful or unsustainable. As long as the facade can be maintained long enough for them to reap the rewards, it doesn't matter that the ship is behind because they have a lifeboat. It doesn't matter.
It's also like, it's important too that you don't have to do it for your whole life. There's plenty of people who run companies into the ground and they're alive to see it happen, and it doesn't matter because they just make the money back anyway. They get a golden parachute exit deal and they get paid $5 million and they have a non-compete clause, so they just don't even work for a year or multiple years, and they just sit around and that money collects interest. It's crazy.
Better that America spent the past 60 years exporting all its jobs and decimating the economies of small towns all across the country, because the few hundred people responsible for those things already got to live long.
That's right.
They don't give a shit.
Even if they stopped making money immediately, it wouldn't matter.
Cutthroat corporate culture that Jack pioneered is still seen all around us today. And through the magic
I don't agree with blaming him. I don't. I think that this was an inevitability based off of fiduciary responsibility and greed of the consumers and investors reaching its logical, obvious conclusion. This is something that would have happened anyway. Maybe he speed ran it, but we'd probably still be in roughly the same position we're in now.
time, it's
He
only
is bald.
getting worse.
He is.
CEOs make $1,000 every second, while their employees
lot.
have to piss in water bottles so they don't fall behind. Routine layoffs, regardless of if a company is even struggling, are so normalized that it's just something we've come to expect. The stock...
I think that we should expect it. I think that asking and expecting companies to provide welfare is ridiculous. I think that we should expect this from the government. A company's job is to create a product at a price. A government's job, in my opinion, is to protect and take care of its people. I think that this displacement on unaccountable third-party corporations that are international, that have in a lot of cases no real ties or obligation to the United States, I think this is it's a siren song, right? I think that the more that you listen to it and you go in that direction, the more it will be a bad thing. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have any accountability on companies, but I don't think that's really where the solution is going to come from.
Market rules the world. Every major decision is dictated by this inherently volatile and short-sighted metric. And look at where that's gotten us. Millions without jobs, an enshittification epidemic, and a concentration of wealth that should be seen as a threat to humanity.
If you can rent Venice for your wedding, you can pay more tax. I wonder how many of these people are still alive.
Even while owning everything, billionaires live in fear of losing it. So they weasel their way into politics.
That's right.
They influence elections. They buy policy changes. They use their wealth to...
There were political cartoons of J.D. Rockefeller doing this over 100 years ago. This is not new. Crassus did it in Rome, didn't he? Always has been, always will be.
Reshape the world to benefit them even further. They try to control narratives by buying up news outlets. They can dictate what's on our social media feeds. They spend an enormous amount of resources on pitting us all against each other, so we're too distracted.
Okay, so, I mean, I think that basically you have to look at... So if you look at... If you think that something is a manifestation of core human behavior and psychology, you should never expect that the problem will solve itself without dramatic and extreme regulation and controls. And I think that some of these videos, I think that it's very popular to be hateful and hostile to people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, and you can do that as much as you want. but it will never be productive because even if these people retire or they die, they'll just be replaced by somebody else that will do the same thing. It's kind of like the metaphor that I use all the time where these people are effectively the cookies and you don't want to go after the cookies, you
山
want to
上
go
多
after
蛇
the
虫
cookie， factory.
施主
Because the
经过
cookie
树下草
factory
丛
will just
时
keep making
须得
more
多加
cookies.
留
So
意才
even if
是
you throw away a dozen cookies, there's just going to be more cookies that replace them. So that's my
师叔师兄们常下山化缘，
To see that the real
我与道
problem
会
is
师弟
them.
便
It's like
常研磨
another
些
great
驱蛇虫的
example
草
of
药
this is that,
制成药
you
包
know,
给
whenever
他们带在
Luigi
身上
shot。that United Healthcare person, it's not like insurance in
山上
America
多
just
蛇
suddenly
虫
went away and it got good again.
Us all against each other, so we're too distracted
How
to
many
see that
cookies?
the real problem
6
is
million.
them.
Should the human race survive,
I love this guy, by the way. He's absolutely fucking schizo. All of the stuff about the fucking, what do you call it? The Antichrist and everything else. I think he's great.
Everything kind of sucks right now, and as a result, most people are justifiably pretty angry. But for media outlets and politicians, that anger is their single most powerful tool because they can tell you where to direct it. And they don't even really care who it is, so long as it's not them. That's why it changes all the time. Sometimes it's trans people, sometimes it's immigrants. Most recently, it's been poor people.
Well, important to keep in mind that the immigrants are being the only people who are the real beneficiaries of mass migration and mass immigration are billionaires and business owners because they're the ones that are able to utilize, take advantage of, and abuse and exploit the labor of people who are illegal in the country or migrants in the country. Those are the people that actually benefit. The working class doesn't benefit. The middle class generally doesn't benefit. The upper middle class probably benefits because they're getting like basically cheaper like lawnmowers, right? And cheaper maids. But otherwise, the main people that are really getting all the money are the big corporations, right? They're the ones and the business owners. Modern slavery? Well, yeah, modern slavery. I would say it's more like indentured servitude. I think slavery is too harsh of a word, but yes.
This whole war going on over food stamps because when the government shut down, 42 million Americans lost access to SNAP benefits. Now that's an objective piece of information, an inarguable statistic, but depending on how it's presented to you, it may lead you to draw drastically different conclusions.
Well, you saw on Twitter, right? I mean, you see like there's a black person that's bad with money that's spending all their food stamps on Takis and Dr. Pepper. And so now we should just let poor people starve. The problem is that the people are retarded. And it's so easy to just totally manipulate people's perception. And it's getting worse every single year.
For some, it might put into perspective how dire the situation has gotten. Like, surely there's underlying issues with a system that's allowed 12% of its population to be unable to afford food. Alternatively, you might hear that and think, wait a minute, my tax dollars are paying for these...
Well, the problem also is that, it's more than 12% that can't afford food. It's only 12% that officially qualify for not being able to afford food.
Greedy freeloaders? I'm busting my ass over here to barely make ends meet, and these leeches are using my money to buy cookies?
Yeah, basically, like, the $60,000 a year people hate the $20,000 a year people.
Not fair. And all it takes is highlighting a story or two of someone taking advantage of the system to make you think there's this rampant issue that you're expected to feed.
I think it is. I think there is actually a rampant issue of people that are taking advantage of the system. It's definitely true, but that's inevitable. Every system that gives away stuff is going to have people that are taking advantage of it. In the same way that, you know, whenever they're doing the ICE deportations, there are people who get detained unfairly. When there are laws that are made for, speeding, there are people that get pulled over unfairly. There are also going to be people that are paid out unfairly whenever you have a payout program. This is inevitable. This is an inevitable reality that the only way to avoid it is to do nothing.
All of these people with money you barely have enough of to feed yourself. This narrative has been used since the 70s because it's very effective. You work hard, they're lazy, this program is bad. It's easier than ever now to push this narrative because you can just AI generate a video of a fat lady.
I mean, but she is really fat though, right? And do we really need to be feeding? And the thing is that I think that most people, whenever they see a fat person that's on food stamps that's just gratuitously buying a bunch of food, Because, by the way, I know that fat lady buying a bunch of food gratuitously that she doesn't need. It was my mom. And I was right there behind her, in front of her, putting it all in the cart because I was buying it too, because we got food stamps. It was fucking amazing. So, yes, I know that they're real because I used to be one.
He's screaming at Walmart and get everyone pissed off. But in order to properly analyze this, let's take a look at the data. First of all, SNAP only makes up about 1.5% of the overall federal budget. Less than 1/8 of what we spend on defense, and 1/8 of what we spend just on interest on the debt that we own. By my math, cutting this program would only save the average taxpayer a couple $100s a year. And of course, that's assuming that if they were to cut it, they would send you a refund in the mail. No, I'm pretty sure they would still take the same amount.
It would go to Israel, actually.
Instead of reinvesting it into the economy, which is what SNAP ultimately does, they would just buy some more missiles or send a pile of cash to Argentina.
How about
Second
that?
of all, by definition, the majority of SNAP recipients fall under the umbrella of elderly, disabled, veterans, full kids, caretakers, or just temporarily unemployed. Remember, not everybody who isn't working does so because they don't want to. It is very hard to find and keep a job right. The fact that SNAP spending ebbs and flows so closely with the overall state of the economy should be proof that this program is primarily used for temporary relief. Even still,
That's actually a really good argument. I like that. I've never heard that before. I've never seen that graph. That's a good graph. I like that graph.
many of the people on SNAP do work, and about 70.
Well, I actually, but to be fair, I also think that this graph is a bit problematic because if you see here, this is really what the issue is. Let me just go ahead. I can pull it up and show you guys. So if you look at the actual graph here, you can see that the baseline of COVID is still higher than the baseline afterwards. And I think this really also goes to show that a lot of the economy, I guess like the best way to say it, a lot of the economic recovery is artificial. Because if it wasn't artificial, you would see this number go back down even more. But it's not. How is it the economy keeps getting better, but at the same time, all these people are still stuck on food stamps? There you go. Is this adjusted for inflation? Total spending? I don't know actually if it is or not. That's a good question.
Percent of the ones who do work full-time. That doesn't seem like a laziness problem. That seems like a wage problem. They need supplemental income to survive because of how little they're being paid. Of those full-time employees, their two most common employers were McDonald's and Walmart. They combined to earn $23 billion in profits last year.
Not that much.
$23 billion. And you're telling me they can't afford to pay their employees enough because they don't need government assistance? See, what that means is you wouldn't have to help pay for these people's food.
This was a scandal in like 2009 or 2010 that, it might have been 2008, I don't remember exactly, but Walmart was caught teaching people who were working at Walmart how to supplement their income from working at Walmart by applying for government assistance. So like basically they're offloading the burden of taxes onto the actual fucking person.
Employer, a nearly $1 trillion corporation, just paid them a livable wage. You're more upset at the people using the program than the companies who have put them in a position where they even need it in the first place.
Well, the companies want them to use the program.
Walmart double dips here. The majority of food stamps are redeemed at Walmart. So not only do they save money by underpaying their staff, but their revenue then gets subsidized by this program because that's where
Keep in mind, one of the people that was an heiress to Walmart was a massive funder of the No Kings protest for Donald Trump, who ended up locking food stamps out because of the government shutdown. Isn't that interesting?
People tend to use it. Final statistic, about a third of SNAP recipients, over 12 million of them, are children. What's the argument there? Are they...
Who knew? Vertical integration. Yeah, bro. We're integrating the White House. Not Soros. I think that it was funded by a lot of different people.
Just because you're 7. Like, can we stop for 1 second to think about what you're saying here? You have let somebody convince you that in this situation, the only way to make your life better is if 12 million children starve. So I want to ask, who is more to blame here? A bunch of kids who got born into poverty, or CEOs with
bad spawn RNG, guys? I guess you have to die.
That anybody could spend in 1,000 lifetimes to expect you to solve the problem that they helped create.
For some people, it doesn't matter what you say about capitalism, they will still go to war for it. Even if it's...
Well, they'll also go to war against it. I don't think this is I think this is slightly reductive. In my opinion, I think that people are so indoctrinated by what their ideologies are. Like, this is even a bigger thing where I think that people have replaced religion with political dogma and social ideologies. So in the same way that people would blindly follow, Islam or blindly follow Christianity, well, now that we're in more of a secular culture, the mind of the people that would follow these religions blindly for thousands of years hasn't really changed as fast as the society has. And so instead of following that, they're following the idea of Marxism or socialism or, the capitalism or something like that. And LGBT issues. And this is their frame of reference that derives their political system, their morality system, their economic system, and the way that they see the world, and also even interact with other people.
Not working for them. Statistically speaking, it's probably not. They'll try to criticize the multi-billionaire who's not paying enough taxes, and people will defend them like, hey, it's not their fault. They're just taking advantage of loopholes, like any smart business person will.
Well, they were the ones that made the loopholes.
Like, okay, so then we agree there's a problem with the rules, right?
Exactly.
They're just
Yes.
exploiting the system.
If the rules are bad, then what use are the rules? If the rules put you at a disadvantage, then fuck the rules.
System, then maybe the system is to exploit. We've reached a point where a lot of the core principles of the free market no longer apply. Like the idea that you can vote with your dollar. Support, therefore the best ones will succeed and the worst ones will fail. Yeah, except when one company.
I think it's generally true. Like, it's not always true, but it's generally true.
Is the largest right of there is.
Have small businesses tell us if they've gone to Walmart or Costco, the retail price at those stores, the price on the shelves at those stores is lower than the wholesale price a small business is getting. And so there are huge disparities here.
And that's now feeding into itself, right?
I think it's normal, right? I mean, buying things wholesale, like buying something at Sam's Club is cheaper than buying it at Walmart. It would make sense logically that a larger sale would be even cheaper than that. Like, I don't understand that point.
The more dire the economy is for everyone, the less freedom they have when they're deciding what to pay for. Amazon is certainly not the only
volume saves money on logistics, yeah.
To buy things, but historically speaking,
Walmart
it's
owns
almost
Sam's
always
Club. That's why I use it as an
the
example.
most convenient. So how do you convince somebody who's also been forced to pinch?
They were saying the opposite. Wait, let me listen to it again.
They walked into
all their competition, suddenly there isn't any.
and we would have small businesses tell us if they walked into a Walmart or a
Small businesses. Okay, let me lock in and think for a second here, because usually I'm thinking about like 5 different things I'm talking about. So let me think about it again.
Costco, the retail price at those stores, the price on the shelves at those stores is lower than the wholesale price a small business is getting. And so there are huge disparities here.
And that's now
What she's saying. Wholesale is more perspective. I don't even. What is she even? What, I don't even understand this. If you control the market, you also control the price.
Algorithms would charge you the maximum price they think you'll pay at any given moment. Now, one of the most common...
So you should have brought that up.
Here, if you bring up the idea of raising Well, if you do that, they're just gonna leave. First of all, no, they're not. That's a bluff they've been using for years, perpetuated by media networks owned by, you guessed it, rich people who don't want their taxes to go.
Wow, what a surprise.
I'm sure a few of them might leave, but the kinds of people who are willing to go to the trouble of buying business from New York City to like
this is another thing that's also good about having tariffs, right? Is that it makes leaving because of higher taxes harder to do.
Are probably already doing everything they can to avoid paying any taxes at all. It doesn't seem like
everyone's incorporated in Delaware
to cater to this parasitic minority at the expense of everybody else. Second of all, oh my God, can we grow some fucking balls here? I don't understand. They're not like it if we raise their taxes. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how pathetic?
No, that's not the reason why. Is it? That's. I don't agree with this. I think the reason why they do it is because they want to be in that position in the future. One of the things that's unique about America is that there is the ability for class mobility that is almost unheard of in many other places in the world. Like in America, you can be homeless and then you become a billionaire. That's not very common in the world. And I understand that it's not as common now, but it's still possible. And so people have this fantasy in their mind, and inside of this fantasy, they're the person that's the winner. So yeah, of course that's why. So they imagine themselves being taxed at this higher rate.
You sound okay. So what? We can't do anything then? That's it? It's over. They won. Your plan is that we should just give up and let the billionaires have whatever they want.
That's what's going to happen. I can guarantee you, because there is no way that you can convince stupid people to work in their own best interest. And there are too many stupid people out there. They are too easily manipulated, and it will never work. Because it never has worked.
Buddy, we've already tried that, and that's not working either. Third of all, this criticism is predicated on the idea that taxation actually has a where at a certain rate, your overall revenue actually decreases because people will lose the incentive to work as much, like you're saying, move away. With this in mind, there have been studies done by economists who believe that every country has an ideal rate for maximum efficiency. However, the implication that raising taxes would cause the overall to go down would only be true if we were on the tail end of this bell curve.
Yeah, obviously.
And we are nowhere close. So if your main concern is to maximize total,
I think this obviously makes sense. I mean, very clearly people won't work as hard if they're not getting any money out of it. Sure.
Revenue, it's pretty clear we should be moving. Otherwise, the very metric you're I'm not going to sit here and act like raising taxes fixed all of our problems, because we still have to rely on elected officials to actually use that money in a sensible way. I'd be happy to contribute to healthcare or
I think this is true for a lot of people. I think that a lot of the animosity and hostility towards paying taxes is hand in hand with the tax money being allocated in ways that are stupid. I think that people wouldn't have a problem paying more taxes if they saw a new library being built in like their local town. But whenever they see a new library being blown up in the Middle East, that doesn't really seem as appealing. And somehow it's more expensive than
education. But if my money's just going to be used to blow up a hospital on the other side of the world,
hey, what can I say?
Yeah, maybe I'd rather just give it to a food bank. I don't know all the answers, because at the end of the day, no matter how hard I try to expand my legacy beyond...
I mean, it's so obvious, right? I mean, you don't need to pre-watch that. It's basic psychology.
I'm still just a road-oriented guy, but I do know that this amount of wealth inequality that's showing zero signs of slowing down anytime soon...
It's going to get worse, actually. It'll get a lot worse.
...is not sustainable. Turns out that actually every single thing in the world...
It's only not sustainable if you assume that the current economic and social system is going to stay the same, which it won't.
It's going to get a lot worse. From housing to healthcare. It's just a way to enrich a few people at the cost of many. And I have to wonder if we finally reached a point now where the greed has gone too far. That
it never has gone too far. And even in the instances historically of, you know, the supposed rising up of the working class, you generally have, for example,
你的
the
身上
military merchant class fighting
有三更
the
天
royalty
的味
class
道。
in, for example, the French Revolution. And it's also not like in any of these previous revolutions in history, it's very rarely, oh, the poor people really fight the rich people and then the poor people win. It's usually that half of the rich people pay half of the poor people to kill the other half of the rich people, and then they're paying their poor people, and then somehow people, one side wins, and it's seen as a, class victory, but really it's just a reinforcement of the existing hegemony. It is, and this is really the truth. And it's a very black pill way of looking at it, but I think that if you look into it, you'll find out that this is true.
Now so impossible to ignore that no amount of gaslighting about how the economy is good actually will convince people who are dying because they can't afford to go to the doctor that this is just how life should be. History shows it. Unfortunately, sometimes things have to get worse before they can get better. And if this is what it takes for a...
I think that there is acceleration in mind. I think that things can improve. I hope that they do. My expectation is that I don't really know whether they will or not. I don't think there's enough to, I can't say. But it's very unlikely. I'll say that.
Solidarity, then
It's
I
never
guess
gonna
at least
happen.
we're closer to that than we've been in a long time. We just need to put down our phones, set aside our differences for a little bit, and unite on this one issue. They want us divided because they're afraid of how strong we would be if we stood together.
Which is why they never will.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go argue on Reddit about how Ghost of Yote is woke because they didn't make the main character hot enough for me. Thank you for watching.
That's right. And you're going to be thinking about my video, and I was fucking right. And you want to talk about capitalism, I'll tell you something. If they had made that character with bigger tits, they would have sold even more copies than they do. That's fucking right. You're goddamn right. Yep, there you go. And anyway, great video. Yeah, I think it was a really good video. And overall, I think that any sort of discussion of revolution or anything inside of that scope at all is very, very pie in the sky, fantasy, theoretical. I think it's bullshit, really. It's bullshit. And it's not going to happen. Great insight, great video. Yeah, I mean, he's talking about a lot of... And I think this is the prime evil that is transcending everything. Like, everything is downstream of this. For example, like, identity politics are introduced into the media in order to distract from this. I think that also... And I think this is also done by the mainstream media. And then you also have very, very clearly the amount of, like, just random distractions there are. People are distracted from it. So yeah, 3 out of 10 video, reductive socialist argumentations. I mean, again, like, you can put, yeah, it sounds like the beginning of a great Reddit comment. How are you contributing to what he's talking about? Trump can spam hate in Somalis, and now we're doing that? Well, because and let me explain the reason why. The Somalians that are being brought into the country are being brought into the country with the abstract goal of them being able to be an underclass of laborers for rich people. So mass migration and these immigration allowances and these introductions of massive groups of foreign people that aren't assimilating into the culture, the reason why that's happening is because these large businesses want to utilize their labor and take advantage of them systematically. That's the reason why. So if you, like, basically, mass migration is a symptom of this disease. That's it. And by the way, do you know who agrees with me on this? Is Bernie Sanders. That's it. Finally, somebody noticed it? Yeah, exactly. They're the ones that are creating the carrot that's causing all of these people to illegally migrate to the country. Can we get a link? Yeah, give the video a like. I think this was really, really good. I like the video a lot. I didn't agree on every point that he made. I think it's probably impossible for somebody to. But overall, I think that he made a lot of really good points, and I think it's great. It's also great for the left because it displaces the cured white majority. I mean, like, you can talk like all of that is kind of... That's secondary to this, but yeah, of course, right? Bernie's hypocritical. I mean, like, you're thinking about, like, so, okay, that's fine, but you have to agree that, like, I think he was right on that, wasn't he? And so, like, that's my point. Like, you can go and talk about, oh, it's this, that, and the other thing. I don't give a shit about any of that. Like, oh, he said this, he said that. I don't care. Is he right about this thing? I think this thing he is right about. After the Snow White thing, I'm gonna be honest, I will be shocked if she gets cast in almost anything. Nobody will want to cast her, and here's the real reason why I think Revolution Line has it actually has nothing to do with any of her comments besides that. and it has to do with her making the Free Palestine post on her promotion for the film. That is the reason why I think that no other studio will ever work with her again. And it's not because like, oh, it's Jews. No, it's not about that at all. It's because she's taking a political issue and she is putting it on the media that she's putting out there. Yeah, exactly. Oh, politics by? Exactly, right? Yeah, people are immediately out of that. It's unprofessional. It's PR nightmare. It's just alienating.
It was supposed to be her career's biggest movie, but was so brutally criticized, it instead became the one that destroyed her life.
How ugly I am. 施主，这里不是你该来的地
Welcome to
方。
my fucking life.
为什么？
这里曾有大火，烧尽了一村人。如今亡魂作祟，夜有鬼哭，你也敢来吗？
It was all part of the plan, because decades
我不信那些。
ago, Walt Disney himself said Snow White should never be remade, but they went ahead
或
and
许
said
施主便是贫僧在等的那个机
So
缘。
somehow he predicted this was
施
going
主，
Are there meant to be
你愿不愿意助贫僧为困在这里的亡魂们做一场超度的法会？
But they went ahead anyway, and by the time the trailer dropped, people
多
were
谢
into
施
it
主，
already. If I saw this movie
还
on the
请施
plane,
主
I would
带
still 着
着这
myself.
些法器，
That hard
替
to
贫
find
僧
someone who actually
去
looks
做
like Snow
3
White.
件
This
法
comment
事。
made a good point. I just find it funny that her name is Snow White and she's not white.
他们
It just
等这
defeats
场
the
法
purpose.
事
Petitions to cancel the remake started
也已
immediately
经
after
等
the
了
release,
很
over
久。
2.2
2.3 million dislikes. Imagine having that much of a dedicated hater base. That's insane.
million dislikes,
Jesus.
leading people to wonder why Disney wasn't canceling the movie or making some changes. Well, they did make changes. For starters, they swapped out real dwarf actors for CGI, which looked hideous. Instead of the beloved original characters, we got creepy, soulless abominations that looked like they crawled out of a failed video game. And strangely, in the
Yeah,
live
because doing the opposite was considered like some form of ableism. That's the reason why. It was so stupid.
action remake, even the trees were CGI, which was an atrocious waste of money as well. To make matters worse,
So they couldn't find any trees, guys. You gotta understand. I mean, filming is hard.
moved these iconic shots from the original, one of which being "Someday My Prince Will Come," because
What a
apparently
surprise.
Snow White dreaming of love makes her too dependent, which only makes sense considering there's no prince either, just a bandit named Jonathan. The
So
con-
there's no Prince Charming and just a bandit. Wow, this really is for women nowadays, isn't it? Jesus. That's bad.
the writers intentionally didn't want a prince saving Snow White.
By making him a thief and a lowlife, rather than an authoritative figure of any kind. It's as if the idea of a balanced relationship is offensive to them.
Of course it is, because a lot of these women, you know what they have? Personal unresolved trauma. And so they have some issue that they've had with some man in their life, and they're looking for media to reinforce the way that they feel. That's it. Yep, a chip on their shoulder. Absolutely.
It felt more like a political statement than a kid's movie. And in case it isn't obvious, it was a garbage casual. The ending scenes featured a lady party, and no surprise, people absolutely hated it. But there was
Snow
one
White is worse than AIDS.
even more. Snow White herself. Why? Well, arrogance. That's why. Back in 2020, Rachel Zegler called Jeremy Renner a racist, transphobic garbage monster based on
What the fuck is this bitch talking about? Oh my god! Racist, sexist, transphobic, garbage monster. Damn!
irrelevant allegations that were proven to be false. And when
Oh, okay, there we go. So let's see here. Let me read it. Jeremy Renner has faced serious allegations from his ex-wife, including claims of threats and reckless behavior. What does that have to do with being transphobic? No criminal charges have been filed against him, and the allegations have not been definitively proven. Renner has consistently denied the allegations, and legal proceedings so far have not resulted in any findings supporting any claims. So, okay. So he didn't do it, probably. All right. Yep. Dog, she just projecting.
And when the user told her to learn the facts before running her mouth, she arrogantly replied, "Better catch my mouth, cause she running."
Better catch my mouth, cause she running by.
多谢施主，
Crazy to me
如今
that
咽
anybody
口湿
that
了，
is not
香火也
in
供
fourth
了，
grade or below
只
is
差最后一道仪轨了。
this is it. Like this is
施
some
主
shit
可
that I
愿
this is like talk to the
替
hand.
此地众生
It's on that
再
level,
做一
guys.
场梦？
Oh my god.
做梦，
Not even remotely gonna
做什么
address
梦？
the story that came out today, but he
于困
his
苦
main
中
racist exercise in
拔
Japan
出
stole the
众
comment
生
and，totally disrespected
却
the deaf
不可
community.
为外人道的梦。还请施主
She never should have
在
been
旁
cast,
小
but this
憩
will be her
片
last
刻，
movie, judging by her
待到
comments.
子时再来寻贫僧。
Yeah.
There's a big focus on her.
施主醒了，
Yeah.
With the guy who literally
请随贫僧来吧，
weird.
After calling the
他
princess
们
stalker, she said,
在路上了。
1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White.
Dude, this is why. Do you know who's really happy that Google just brought out that VEO3? The guys that are like working production studios in Hollywood. They are thinking, thank fucking God. We've only got to deal with this shit for maybe 10 more years and then it's over. And we're never going to have to think about this shit ever again.
She's not going to be safe with a prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about
法师，
true love. She's
这是什
Why
么？
is that bad? Like, that's what's
这
so
些人
weird.
又是谁？
Why is that bad?
他们
It's bad to
便是等候着往生的千佛村众
fall in
生，
love. Why is this bad? Well, I
因
think
为
that
曾
you
经
find
那
out
场
if
大
you-
火
if you
被
were
困
her
在此
and
地
you knew her dating
多
life
年
as
不
well as
得
she
出
did,。I think that
但这
these
往生
comments
路
would
上
make perfect
还
sense.
少一个举灯人，还请施主相助，
I think
为
that
他们举
immediately
灯。
everything would be like, oh, of course she thinks that.
Now, in the beginning, her statements weren't that outrageous. Although there was one massive issue. She couldn't keep her mouth shut.
I think I watched it once or
Isn't that a, like, I mean, I don't understand how do you have some, like, I mean, this isn't even a live interview. Like, how do you greenlight this and let it go live? I didn't like the original show. Okay, so why are you redoing it? What the hell's wrong with you?
I'm being so serious. I watched it once, never revisited Snow White again.
Zegler gives I deserve this role more than anyone, and the fact that she has zero good to say about the original is disgusting narcissist, which wasn't wrong.
Is it, how many times in a row are we gonna get like shows? You know, like we were talking about Dredd before. You know, Carl Urban didn't want to show his face in Judge Dredd, even though he's this really well-known actor, because that's not what Judge Dredd would
灯笼
have
都
done.
挂好了，爹爹
And
该
Henry
回来了
Cavill
吧？
playing Geralt as
我
well.
们去佛堂找爹爹吗？
Like it's just again, how many times has somebody who hated
孩子快出事
the
了
movie or hated the original
我给你们
like
唱了
been able to make
108遍
something
佛经
that's good? I feel
希
like
望
that
生
doesn't
产的
really
时候
happen very often.
一切顺利。娘子，你放心。
For example, she seemed oddly excited, saying her
你又
co-star's
去哪里
scene
鬼混了啊？给你求好的公民签，喊你去上个香都喊不动。
Assume it's a love story.
真要让你娘操心的滚心泪天是吧？
娘就不跟去了啊！上完香记得早点回家。
It's Hollywood, baby.
which is funny considering
法师，那些事。
After Donald Trump won the election, Rachel posted this story
It's actually how Donald, like, the Donald reckoning of Karens, the reverberations of this will be felt for 15 years. And then I remember J.D. Vance saying, frankly, Margaret, I don't care. That was, yeah, bro, like, that shit was, I was so glad to finally fucking hear that shit, yeah. Thank God.
The Trump supporters, voters, and for themselves never know peace.
Being
completely opposite to the message she always preached. Clearly, she was a hypocrite as well.
Well, no, every single person who preaches acceptance and love will be the first person to, you know, pillory you and make up lies about you the moment that you say something that they disagree with. This is what they always do. They're like, well, we are so accepting and so supportive of everybody that anyone who disagrees with us, it's okay for us to basically kill them.
心诚则灵。
Naturally.
平时我还不够长。
Think about how much money that is. Think of how much time that is. Millions of dollars invested on this bullshit. Oh my god.
Yet the duo truly did a terrible job because when the trailer was released, Rachel thanked the viewers for the views, but also added, always remember 3,000 Now, this wasn't a huge deal, but her co-star was Israeli and supported Israel. Therefore, the tension between them was at its peak during the promotion. The real issue, however, was that Rachel's tweet led to Gal receiving death.
I don't think that I don't even know how true that is, because, like, I mean, yeah, she's Israeli and she was in the IDF and she doesn't think Israel should be destroyed, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't empathize with Palestinians. This weird dichotomy that's been like, if you look at the color how is the color grading for the movie worse than this? Like, in my opinion, it's way better than this. It's better in this as well. Like, how is it that you fucked up this bad? This is awful. Really? It just looks like shit.
Her face already had. Edna Mode, Willy Wonka, the Little Lad, Violet, Serena, Coconut Head, Leo Shallow, and the most accurate of all, Lord Farquaad. People stated her eyes got weak, haven't made eye contact in years. Those eyes are drifting apart like continents. Soon they'll need a passport to
这样的又何止千佛村？为何只有他们死后也不安息？
那就要问问那场天火了。不管是神明之法，还是阴差阳错，火落在千佛村，便再也不熄灭，永远困住了千佛村。
I mean,
Thousands of people are just roasting her. They clipped her face from the movie and turned it into art like this, while explaining CGI dwarves were used instead of real actors due to Rachel being 5'2", making her not much taller than a little person.
I don't know why, but I think that's funny. And also, by the way, that didn't stop Lord of the Rings. Like, you're telling me that, like, this is some ancient lost lore that a movie was able to do 25 years ago, but you can't figure it out?
Users were thrilled that Lord Farquaad was finally back, and for the first time, people were rooting for the apple to win. Petitions to remove Rachel from the movie started popping up, with supporters calling her a nasty person, whilst editing pictures to turn the evil queen into Snow White. Fans disliked her so much because she has an ego the size of an elephant, but looks like Lord Farquaad's mom with the attitude of a whiny brat. If you think she was the wrong choice for Snow White, like this. Almost 10,000 people agreed.
Things that Jesus on some random website. I don't even know what website that is. That's insane.
Had gone so bad, she was being stalked and receiving death threats. As
这就是当日天火落下的地方。
outside her apartment, screaming profanities.
他们对天火的怨恨和恐惧，让火燃烧至尽。他们不愿看，才走不出。该放下了。万万因缘因火而起，也终要因火而灭。
It's stalking, it's harassment, it's weird, it puts people in danger. Why should a civilized society tolerate that type of mental illness?
世间有为法，千流不暂停，万物行常，世事终生矣。往复空于尘，辗转如轮回。
She first explained how intense the backlash was. Social media was similar to depression.
That's what happened. Is that nobody likes you. I know it sounds crazy, but that's those are the consequences of your actions. That's life.
行了行了，终于行了。
The hate reached a whole new level. All she wanted was for it to stop.
Well, the problem is that, like, I mean, and you guys know this, like, I mean, I've never really made fun of the way she looked. I mean, yeah, she kind of looks like Lord Farquaad, but like, as I said, the reason why she looks so bad.
少侠，你终于醒了。方才见你在这大树下睡觉，怎么叫都不醒，差点就要对你念起往生咒了。
And it's basically like, how can you make somebody look as bad as possible?
等一下，你们是？
啊，我们是附近村民凑钱请来做法事的和尚。他们说这里以前发生过一场大火，烧死好多人，怨气重得很。我们刚到这地界，结果周围起了大雾，啥也看不见。好不容易找到这儿了，却发现你在树下睡觉。说来也奇怪，这千佛谷地界没听过埃及舞啊。好了好了，少侠，既然你没事就快走吧，别耽误我们做法了。哎，少侠出去后，可千万别说我们误了时辰的事儿啊。
And I'm obsessed with social media, but I can't stop using it. By the way, here are my political values and my political affiliations, and all of those are totally reasonable. Does that sound like a good advertisement? Yeah, it's bad for what? Yeah, it looks pretty bad, doesn't it?
I have no sympathy for her. It's getting sick now. I don't know how much more I can take. It's haunting me. I cry every day. I just want it all to stop, she said. But sadly, not only was it not going to stop, it was about to get 100 times worse.
Yep.
Because when the movie was finally released, with a production budget of $270 million and $410 million in total,
$410 million. $410 million fucking dollars. That's a lot of money, guys.
After marketing costs, expectations were high. Although that didn't happen. It made just $43 million domestically and $44 million internationally in the first...
That's like 20%. Oh my god. Wow.
First opening
That's
weekend,
really bad.
Which dropped by 66% the following weekend, pulling in only $14.3 million. It needed $500 million just to break even, but made only $182 million. The movie reached just 1.6 stars on IMDb.
I think it's one of the worst rated movies of all time. Because there's also not only Rachel Zegler hate, but there are other people that hate Gal Gadot because she's from Israel. So you have the people that are pro-Palestine that are downvoting the movie because of Gal Gadot, and you have the people that are pro-Israel that are downvoting the movie because of Rachel Zegler. So it's like you lose situation. It's the worst. And it's not even about the movie. It's got nothing to do with the movie. The movie apparently sucked too. But yeah, on top of that, it's everything else. Double whammy wombo combo. I guess, yeah, everything about it was bad.
Making it the lowest rated film ever. Wow. Scored only 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. Meanwhile,
and you can see, by the way, this is another thing that I was talking about, is that, like, verified ratings, like, I don't know really if this is the same as Metacritic, but are these actually people that, are these, like, reviewers? I'm not sure if it's actually reviewers or not. Because, like, a lot of times the reviewers will give movies like this a higher rating because they don't want to, their paid review. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's audience score. I'm not sure. It could be journalists as well.
On Rotten Tomatoes.
I don't know.
Meanwhile, dozens of TikToks showed how empty the theaters were. On Reddit, when asked about how the movie did, employees responded, "I didn't even know it was out in theaters."
Didn't even know it was out. Jesus, man, that's bad.
Very bad. Between the 4 showings we had yesterday, we did 8 people for it.
8 people for 4 showings. They must have bought a lot of... I hope they bought a lot of popcorn. Because that's not looking good at all. Jesus.
So, who was to blame for all this? Well, of course, Rachel Zegler.
No, it's
right?
the internet's fault. It's the internet's fault. And racism's fault. It's actually, you know who the real fault is? Donald Trump did this to her.
Because she directed the film, wrote the script, styled her hair, and told the studio to spend $500 million on a remake no one asked for, right? No, Rachel had no fault in the film's failure. However, the saddest part is that Disney themselves started using her as a scapegoat. Suddenly, it wasn't Disney's movie anymore. It was Rachel Zegler's.
Rachel Zegler. That's what you get. That's what you get. You try to go and put them, because she tried to entangle them in her worldview and her politics. That's what you get.
Snow White is officially the worst movie of all time on IMDb, so this is her fault. Really, Snow White is bad because this is Zegler's movie and not Disney's movie. It's her movie apparently. Like, bro, posts like these, the review bot on IMDb, and everything else in between the belly buttons have all been putting blame on Zegler for how Snow White is her fault.
Disney blatantly blamed Rachel for the failure.
I think that the movie probably sucked, and even if they had different actors in it, it probably would have done really well. But it's definitely doing worse because of her. Like, it just made things worse. Obviously, right? Fucking obviously.
Yet the real reason was this.
But the reason why Snow White is flopping at the box office is not because of Zegler, it's because of Disney. And what's stupid is that the
She's the one who's fault. It's both. If she wasn't in the movie would not be successful. But she made the movie less successful. Both things are true.
like heavy damage control because inside that they are using Zegler as a scapegoat. For example.
Good. You want to be a martyr? Go ahead. Nobody else is going to die on your cross.
Saying that the original Snow White is weird probably wasn't the best PR move.
Which
of course it wasn't.
Surprisingly, led to even more trouble. She destroyed it, not Disney. It's Hollywood, baby. Zegler's acting was downright embarrassing. Easily one of the worst performances I've seen. Disney got scammed, but nothing concluded again that the movie was already terrible to begin with.
However, this was all when Disney knew very well they just made a bad movie. And also the film had issues long before its release, such as the ballooning budget. There was an unclear marketing strat, and apparently this was all one person's fault. Because the reality...
Well, yeah, because the thing is that, like, I understand why he's frustrated, and I think Disney does bear some responsibility of this. But if people don't like her because of what she's saying, and they don't want to see a movie because of her in the movie, I think that's pretty fucking fair. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Bro's trying to hit it, I swear.
Is that the trailers, the marketing, the songs, and pretty much just the entire idea of a live-action remake made people not want to watch the movie.
To make matters worse, the film's producer's son stated, "Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous Disney IP with hundreds of millions on the line, had to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old..."
This post was so funny. Like, I don't think we've had something like this in Hollywood that happened. Do you remember, I think that, like, wasn't it Megan Fox that said that, like, I think it was, like, some director, I think it was Steven Spielberg or somebody like that was a Nazi, and then he just fired her from the movie? Like, I remember this happened, like, Michael Bay, yeah, it was like, he just fired her. That was it. Never heard about that shit again. He's like, yeah, I'm not gonna listen to that. No, I'm not Nazi. This is ridiculous. No, that's it. Good, it's a ridiculous thing to say. Yeah.
Or he, for dragging her personal politics into promoting the movie. She hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires, risking the work of thousands. Narcissism is not something to be called. I hate her comments in politics. It was awful. But completely blaming her is insane. Therefore,
it's not totally her fault, but it's partially her fault. And also, even if it's not totally her fault, that doesn't mean that people do have to like
But imagine you spend $250 million and you get some young girl and you don't kind of talk to her about, like, hey, don't get political, you're young.
Nah, they told her that she did it anyway, man. probably told her that 50 fucking times.
And I know you have opinions about things, but should be just about the movie.
Yeah. Eventually coming to this conclusion.
So now, when they put it all on her, now that she went and say free Palestine, so she could say all that.
All these cookies. See, he knows, man.
This and that, but once you do that, now they put the entire weight of the failure upon her. When really, it's like maybe Jimmy Fallon apologized for doing a Chris Rock impression. As a result, what if this time, Rachel started to see this like Rachel is sending death threats and insults? That's just unnecessary. Rachel Zegler is a human. She's not perfect. She does things that...
The only reason this person is defending her is because she's aligned on the Palestine issue. This has nothing to do with her as a person. It has nothing to do with your actual opinion of her. This is just ideological alignment and you defending them out of a tribal. That's it. Nothing like this should be taken seriously at all.
Yes, it's a team sport. But nothing will ever convince me she's a bad person. No amount of hate will ever be justified against her. Now, it would be an understatement to say Rachel's mental health didn't take a hit.
再往前去就是死刑镇，抹去，抹去啊！
That's it. I'm gonna get one of those. Like she does. Like I don't see like because the thing is the internet.
后生是来看千佛谷石雕的吗？唉，佛像还没雕完，过些日子再来吧。
千佛谷？难道要雕1000座佛像？这么多石像，您一个人怎么雕得完？
原本自然不是我一人雕刻。曾经这儿的佛雕厂有100来个佛雕师傅，人人都有一手好技艺。可佛像雕到了一半，忽然就开始灭佛。原本人人盼着的千佛石像，也功亏一篑。后来佛雕厂也没了，佛雕师傅也只剩下我一个。这千佛谷是我老头子心里过不去的坎儿，不雕完他们怎么成呢？
Samuel Jackson, whenever he was going to play Mace Windu in Star Wars, he was the one that wanted the purple lightsaber. So I think that when an actor put themselves in a movie, that's a good thing, right? But the thing is that what's the difference? It's a good actor. That's the difference.
Blizzard is worse than you thought. Oh boy, here we go. Somebody said apparently I'm even in the video. Uh-oh.
The year is 2023, and a once beloved game developer's reputation is in absolute free fall. What was at one point probably the highest paid developer in the industry, the studio that pumped out basic after classic, has now become the home of incomprehensible. Corporate greed, broken promises, botched releases, stolen prestige. This is the story of Blizzard Entertainment.
Remember the logo? Remember that?
The year is
like
19.
Warcraft 2?
Three guys have just graduated from the University of California.
Damn.
Alan Adham, Michael Wilhelm, and Frank Jess. They get together to create a game development studio in Irvine called Silicon and Synapse. The name is deeply philosophical and well thought out, with Silicon representing the building block of a computer and Synapse the building block of a brain. However, people keep mistaking Silicon for anyway, they spent the first few years porting games to different systems, but soon begin producing their own original games, with The Lost Vikings in 1992
I had this one.
and Rock and Roll Racing in 1993.
I did not have this.
Eventually, they get sick of constantly being mixed up with women's breasts, so they decide to switch things up, changing their name to Chaos Studios. However, the company based in Florida already has the trademark, and they're now asking for $100,000.
Jesus.
They then decide to change the studio's name to Ogre Studios. But in 1994, they're acquired by a holding company for a few $1 million. It turns out, their new owners aren't a fan of any
I didn't start with Warcraft 1. I never actually played Warcraft 1 either. I only played Warcraft 2 onward.
And it's an instant success.
Yeah.
It's one of the earliest real-time strategy games to hit shelves. And it's a blast.
Yeah, you would go to a certain city and it would be there.
And even people can get together and get there. And the game does well. Selling 100,000 units in the first time. For the first time. They followed it up.
This right here, this was the main computer game that I played as a kid. This was my game.
It's another thing. For it to be a game, now selling over 1 million copies.
No surprise.
It's now 1996. The company Humble Games has got a publisher that really could be made.
Yeah.
Blizzard has a little bit of a name. Who they buy them and rename them Blizzard. It's also Blizzard notices Warcraft 2 are lasting third-party players.
Yep.
They decide to make their own
Battle.net. Yep.
Its original functionality is very
Remember
simple.
whenever Blizzard tried to change the name of Battle.net to like Blizzard Network or something like that? And like everyone was like, no, let's go back to Battle.net. And then they're like, oh, okay. And then they had to change it back.
With the ability for players to chat to each other.
Blizzard Launcher, yeah, it's Battle.net,
On
okay?
December 31st. It launches alongside Diablo, and people log on and play. Diablo is a massive hit, also selling over 1 million copies in its first year. In 1998, Blizzard launches StarCraft.
It's actually crazy how StarCraft came out in 1998 and people are still playing more regularly. That is fucking insane. I had StarCraft as well.
Diablo 2 launches in 2000.
This was the big one.
It reached 3 million sales by the end of the year.
Crazy. Bro, like they had Diablo 2 boxes at like Walmart until like 2008, 2010. Like this game was so big for so long.
Selling PC game of all time. In 2002, Warcraft is back.
Oh
and
yeah.
now it has an extra dimension. Warcraft 3 sells 1 million units in just 1 month.
Well, like what's so crazy about Warcraft 3 is that like you might not really think about this, but like back then the graphics for Warcraft 3 were beyond next level. They were so ridiculously fucking good. And I remember playing Warcraft 3 on my mom's laptop, and it would take me like an hour just to get through like one cinematic. Because of how in depth and like how groundbreaking the graphics were. Yeah.
It also releases quick editor, restores the series with
Yep.
After its expansion in 2003, it's all hands on deck for business.
I remember, so whenever my dad like started like, cause he was like finally in like 2000, like I would say like 2002, somewhere around there. He was like, okay, I really gotta get a PC. Because like at this point he was like an executive at a publishing company, and like he needed to be able to have an email. Right? So him and his friend got together and collectively spent the most amount of money possible on a PC. And he was asking me about the PC, and he was like, yeah, we're thinking about getting this one. Like, what do you think? And I like looked at it, and I then thought about like what the 3 specs were, and I was like, yeah, I think you're gonna need that one. Yeah, that's definitely the one you need. And then as soon as he bought the PC, I took Warcraft 3 over to his house, and I remember I was there all the time. He was actually pissed because I was just sitting there farming Warcraft 3. I was playing that shit constantly. It was amazing.
The year is 2004. Blizzard are getting ready for its biggest game yet.
Yep.
They'd seen how big MMOs like EverQuest were getting. They
Yep.
thought they'd try their hand. And after $60 billion, 5 years of work, it's finally nearing release. November 2004, World of Warcraft.
You've got to really keep in mind like what a run that was. From like Diablo 1, from like Warcraft 2 to Diablo 1 to Warcraft 2 to Diablo 2 to StarCraft, and then Brood War, and then you had Warcraft 3, and then World of Warcraft. Which again, like World of Warcraft, like the graphics for the game were. I'm trying to think of a game that like kind of had graphics that were that good for that time. It was just like the graphics were totally fucking graphic. They were insane.
And it takes the there are so many players trying to log on. Their servers queues reaching the thousands. Oh, you get past the queues and actually into a game. Well, now you're facing issues. Yep. Meaning you're now back on that queue screen.
Oh, I remember that.
After the initial server problems are ironed out and people can actually play, the game starts. Yep, fans are very enthusiastic. It hoovers up awards left, right, and centre. 6 million sales by the end of its first year.
Think about that. 6 million fucking people.
Instead of simply buying a copy, players have to pay a $15 monthly subscription fee to play.
And you've got to keep in mind, $15 in 2004, 2005, 2006, that's like $30. It was huge.
It's millions.
It's a lot of money.
Every month.
Yeah.
Everyone is playing the game, and its ads go on to feature a ton of celebrities.
I'm Chuck Norris, and I approve this game.
Just like Dave Chappelle announced their redemptions in their releases. World of Warcraft is everywhere. World of Warcraft also results in the launch of BlizzCon in 2005.
Well, BlizzCon always was basically, like, I always viewed BlizzCon as, like, BlizzCon is really just the place where, like, Warcraft people meet up with, like, their guilds. I feel like that's, like, whenever you go to BlizzCon, you see most of the people there from World of Warcraft.
Every game has smashed it. They could do no wrong.
To be fair, though, even in vanilla WoW, people thought the game was always garbage. Like, there were always doom and gloomers. Even in vanilla WoW and Burning Crusade, there were always doom and gloomers.
But first, flying a plane is easy. Just get in, flip a few switches, and go off.
I thought that was going to be footage of something else. Yeah.
And a ton of fun. Jump into intense.
Yeah, because remember that one time,
Someone is going to add armor to
give me my McDonald's tank from Armored Core 6.
With a dynamic damage system, huge customization system, hundreds of characters, historical emblems, and over a century of vehicles to pick from. And their
Just what I wanted.
painstakingly detailed to 100% accuracy, which you can enjoy in gorgeous 4K graphics. And you can play on Xbox, PlayStation, PC for free. Fancy a large bonus pack with all this stuff? Just sign up with the link in the description or the pinned comments below.
Wow. I actually wanted to try War Thunder after they had that one drama thing happen. I might play it one day. It'd be a game that if like I got a sponsor for this, I would play it.
Very good year for subscribers, and it's bringing in a ton of money. So naturally, it's turned a few heads. Now in 2006, Activision had made good tracks in just about every genre of games. And one that was now booming.
Online.
Warcraft currently bringing in over $1 billion a year in subscriptions alone. He's interesting. Now at this point,
I wonder why.
Blizzard has changed hands numerous times, and is now owned by a company called Vivendi. So Kotick approaches Vivendi with a proposition. Vivendi receives money. Activision receives Blizzard. However, Vivendi says no. Instead, Vivendi offers to merge their gaming subdivision with Activision, with Vivendi owning a majority share in the result.
Damn.
And after a brief
for them.
presentation from voting, 2000.
I want to let you guys know less than a year after this deal closed, they had the first storm out.
Blizzard opens its doors.
Yeah.
Activision and Blizzard now its two subsidiaries.
Yeah, I remember thinking myself.
To take most of its autonomy and keep their CEO, co-founder Michael Maloney.
Yep.
It's now 2010, and Blizzard has gone from just under 500 employees on the launch of World of Warcraft to now over 4,060 people, the majority of whom are preparing for the launch of StarCraft 2 in July.
Because StarCraft 2 was so hard. Like, I don't think a lot of you guys remember, but like in 2010, StarCraft 2 was like the esport. Like, that's what it was all about. It was so fucking big. It's like, I think that it had the biggest fall off of any esport that I've ever seen.
The Warcraft expansion.
Because it was so huge. Yeah.
And was now at 12 million monthly subscribers, and StarCraft 2's sales projections are also sizable. But Blizzard currently has a problem. Their forums, they're a little bit toxic. Blizzard has a big team of moderators,
yeah, the real ID
but
thing.
according to them, this still wasn't enough. So behind the scenes, they get raised.
I remember this drama happened whenever I was raiding ICC. Yeah.
And people absolutely.
People are really mad about this.
So in an attempt to sell the idea to players, Blizzard's community manager posts his full name on the forum. See guys? It's fine. But almost instantly, people descend on the forum and get to work. And within mere minutes, they find and publish his home address, phone number, age, Facebook, family names, and a list of his favourite music and movies. Okay, you know what? Fair enough. And after just a few days of being announced, Real ID is scrapped entirely.
Which, to be fair, it was very stupid for Blizzard to have done that. But they took the feedback, they said, wait a minute guys, I think we fucked up with this. We're gonna change it back.
Had gained a significant following, and it even spawned a whole new genre of games, MOBAs. For much of that time, Blizzard had paid little attention to the mods or the game, but the success of the recently launched League of Legends could no longer be ignored, and Blizzard started around the same time, and Valve wants to make their own MOBA. They'd hired the head dev of the original Dota mod, snapped up the Dota trademark, and they're calling their new game Dota 2.
Damn.
Blizzard is furious.
Yeah, they tried to shut him down.
So in 2012, they file a statement of opposition, arguing that the name Defense of the Ancients was associated exclusively with Warcraft due to it being made in their map editor. However, this argument has issues. The mod was created in Warcraft 3's map editor, but that map editor had no specific terms and conditions on ownership of said maps, IP, and concepts.
That's why, whenever Blizzard made Warcraft 3 Reforged, they added that into the legal text that you have to accept. Yeah, they changed the legal text because of this. Because they lost this copyright.
With Valve getting the commercial rights to return Dota, and Dota 2 releases in 2012. It's massively successful.
Oh yeah.
It goes on to be an esports giant. Blizzard gets non-commercial use of the title for its community, and renames Blizzard Dota to Heroes of the Storm, which releases in 2015, and support is canned 3 years later. Blizzard would change its licensing agreements for all future games to include their ownership of player-created maps in an attempt to avoid this ever happening again.
Yeah, they never wanted to have that happen. Because, like, think about how much money they lost on that.
It's 2012, and the massively anticipated sequel to Diablo 2 is looking like it's releasing this year. Its development had been a bit rocky, with its dev team, Blizzard.
And you also have to keep in mind that, like, at this time, so like Diablo 3 came out in, like, I think May of 2011. No, it was May of 2012. Yeah, it came out May 2012 because, like, that was during Dragon Soul. And whenever I was raiding Dragon Soul, I remember, like, everybody said, like, the week that Diablo came out, you had to still come to the raid, and I didn't go to the raid because I was playing Diablo 3, and I was like, I'm an officer, I don't have to follow the rules, and I do the best DPS in the guild, I don't have to follow the rules, and so I didn't. And so, yeah, that happened, and that's again why everyone was happy whenever I stopped raiding, and so that's what it was, and at that time, people were actually pretty negative about WoW, and they were very unhappy about it. And one of the big reasons why Diablo 3 did so well and it was so big is that Blizzard thought of something at the time that was called the annual pass. And you would like agree to pay for a WoW sub for a year. And if you did that, they give you the Tyrael's charger mount, and they would give you Diablo 3 for free. So that's like one of the big reasons why Diablo 3 was so big. Yeah, the annual pass.
Being canned in 2009, along with their version of the game, but on the 15th of May 2012, the rebooted Diablo 3 launches. The game is horrendous. For one, its launch is horrific. The game is online
Error 37.
only, and turns out there are massive server issues.
Yeah.
People are spamming their login details over and over, only to be kicked out by Error 37. What's worse, there's no queue system in place, so you have to manually retry every minute.
Yep.
This issue takes over a week to fix. Then there's the auction house. Loot can be bought.
I think that the problems with Diablo 3 were a lot, like, just in terms of the way the game played, and the game was really buggy. Just straight up problems with the game. I don't think that people had a problem with the Real Money Auction House at all, because people had D2 JSP, and they were buying and selling stuff in Diablo 3 for real money for years. So I actually don't think the Real Money Auction House had any real factor in damaging the game. Maybe this is unpopular opinion, but that's genuinely what my opinion is.
Some souls using your mother's credit card. Activision Blizzard gets filthy rich, while the balancing gets obliterated. Endgame content is also essentially non-existent. However, the game sells almost 4 million copies in its first 24 hours.
Well, it's not that the endgame content was non-existent. It's that doing runs through Inferno mode was, like, basically impossible for all but, like, 2 classes. And, like, I remember I leveled up a Barbarian, and, like, I just got one-shot by the mobs in Inferno mode. Like, I didn't even have a chance. And then I played a Demon Hunter, and it was just like, I cleared the entire thing like it was nothing. It was not even a big deal at all. Did it? Yeah, but it took a long time here.
In 2014, the Real Money Auction House is closed, and Blizzard launches Reaper of Souls, an add-on praised almost unanimously.
My understanding for why they removed the Real Money Auction House was actually because of regulation issues. Because, like, they were basically creating a currency trading service because you were able to buy and sell gold on the Real Money Auction House, and by doing that, you opened yourself up to, like, certain types of regulations. So it was a
reason.
And by the way, I think
什么顿悟无念，唯有渐次修行，方能达到无我。
unpopular Diablo opinions, but I think Reaper of Souls made the game worse.
Nicely. They're ready to make a second add-on to the game.
It removed trading. It removed trading, and it removed the deterministic way that you could work towards gear through buying gold, and through buying the gear on the
Apparently, executives of the game is a massive failure, and demands devs jump ship. The gear is now touching 50.
And also, Reaper of Souls did well for a while, but it did also fall off pretty fast as well.
because people just didn't really like the seasonal aspect of it as much. I think that's kind of what ended up happening, because I remember watching Quinn in like season 4 of Diablo 3, and then there was a reason why Quinn moved over to playing PoE games, because Quinn was originally a Diablo only player. And then I remember Quinn moved over to playing World of Warcraft, and like sometimes he would quad, but I know he was playing a lot of WoW on stream in League, because I remember watching Quinn. I remember thinking, this guy sucks. I'm gonna go live at night right now and show everybody how it's done. And then I wiped out for 2 hours because I kept joking on stream.
Massive expansion of Warcraft, including controversial changes to the game and its mechanics, and player numbers reflect that, now being in steep decline.
Well, also, like, this completely, like, I think this video totally, like, glosses over, are they talking about WoD? Yeah, I guess they were like, Warlords of Draenor was like a massive fucking failure. It was insane how bad it was, especially compared to like Mists of Pandaria was kind of a miss in terms of like theme. Like I think Mists of Pandaria, like if Warlords of Draenor had come out with the amount of content that Mists of Pandaria had, it would be considered the best expansion ever. The problem was that the theme for the expansion was fucking stupid. Pandas? Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you talking about? Pandas and feelings and stars? Like, what the fuck is this? Let's go back to killing people. Like, remember whenever orcs killed humans and humans killed orcs? Let's just do that again. That's it. It's so fucking stupid.
Players long to go back to the days of vanilla.
That's why people got so hard over the WoD trailer.
One fan even floats the idea to Blizzard themselves at BlizzCon 2013. Here's how that goes.
Have you ever thought about adding servers for previous expansions as they were then? No.
Okay then. We'll just make one ourselves.
No.
And the fan-made Nostalrius vanilla server goes online in February 2015, running version 1.12, a month after the original launch. It's not long before the server gets massively popular.
Which again, it became massively popular because this was during Warlords of Draenor. And there was nothing to do in the game because of how bad WoD was. Like for anybody who says that any expansion was like Shadowlands was worse than WoD, there has never been an expansion that was as bad as Warlords of Draenor. Like it was such a massive fucking failure in like 50 different ways. Like BFA was amazing compared to WoD. You are insane